separatist fighters for the violence, the killings, destruction of properties, arbitrary arrest and detention going on in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. The United States has published its 2018 report on the state of human rights in the Republic of Cameroon, and the Bishop of the Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province of the Roman Catholic Church decries the ongoing violence and killings in the two Anglophone regions of the country, indicating that notably abductions and killings have become almost an everyday thing happening in those two regions of the country. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the news on Equinox Television. We begin right away in Anglophone Cameroon. The two Anglophone regions, Northwest and Southwest, hit by socio-political and security crisis for close to 3 years today, and the crisis has continued deepening, and with calls from the national and of course international civil society actors, politicians and institutions for an end to the violence in those two regions. And the United States has published its 2018 Human Rights Report, a report on the state of human rights in the Republic of Cameroon, focusing on the Anglophone crisis and of course the security issues in the far north Adamawa, and of course the east regions of the country with rebels from the Central African Republic. And concerning the northwest and southwest regions of the country, the United States Human Rights Report blames the security forces or elements of the National Armed Forces and separatist fighters for the ongoing killings, destruction of properties, burning down of houses and entire villages, and of course arbitrary arrest and detention of persons in connection to the Anglophone crisis. These are the terms used by the U.S. State Department, notably with regards to the ongoing situation in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. And this situation is highly condemned in the United States 2018 Human Rights Report concerning the human rights situation in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. And regarding the soaring security situation in the Anglophone regions of the country, in particular, the U.S. report holds that police forces remain ineffective and of course inefficient, poorly trained and corrupt, though government has been taking some measures and steps recently to enforce the security forces as well as the police force with regards to the maintenance of peace across the national territory, and of course efforts to consolidate the peace and stability and of course unity of the country while protecting the territorial integrity of the country. But accusations have been streaming in both from the population and civil society actors as well as political leaders and even international non-governmental organizations, accusations streaming in on the police, or rather on the elements of the National Armed Forces with regards to the ongoing destruction going on in those parts of the country. And the government on its part, notably through the government spokesperson and Minister of Communication, Winnie Emmanuel Sardi, has continued accusing the pro-independence fighters for the destruction going on in Anglophone Cameroon. And in a related story, the Bishop of the Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province of the Roman Catholic Church has equally made a statement, has issued a release condemning the ongoing destruction and killings in the two Anglophone regions of the country. In a pastoral letter addressed to all faithfuls and people of goodwill, the Archbishop of Bamenda, His Grace Cornelius Fontaine Eswa, handled among other issues issues, the rampant that is the rampant killings and destructions going on in those two parts of the country, and of course the impact on human life and human dignity in the conflict hit northwest and southwest regions of the country. And the bishop regrets that violence has become almost an everyday thing in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. He equally points accusing fingers on the military and of course the separatist fighters who are frequently in confrontations, leaving the population caught in the fire. And of course the impact has been very deadly and of course devastating, not only on human life but also on the economy of those two regions that has been simply crumbled, with companies like the Cameroon Development Corporation, PAMOL, and others that are practically down to earth. And of course the National Assembly is yet to put the Anglophone crisis on the table, and the Social Democratic Front continues pressing for the members of Cameroon's lower house of parliament to discuss the Anglophone crisis as a matter of urgency, but their efforts have yielded little or no fruit right up till now. And the Member of Parliament of the Social Democratic Front, Honorable Joseph Mbandam, has seriously criticized in strong terms the Parliament for failing to discuss the Anglophone crisis. He was speaking to us on the sidelines of the ongoing March session of Parliament. Take a listen. The visit of the Minister of Secondary Education to Konsamba in the Mongo Division littoral region of the country, and she was there to launch the week of technical excellence. And of course she was in that part of the Mongo Division with regards to efforts of the Cameroon government to promote technical education in the country, with regards to the ongoing situation in the country where many young people are underemployed simply because they are having certificates that are more or less having nothing to do with the technical aspect of education. And of course she was speaking during that ceremony, indicating that government is doing everything possible to promote technical education in the country. And school resumption at the Zika High School found in the central region is still remains a nightmare, as teachers have refused to resume work in that school as a result of some issues affecting that school. Teachers have refused to resume work after some unknown persons had sealed the classrooms with red cloths, and that was though the traditional rites have been done to mount pressure, notably on the teachers and of course the pupils to return to school. It is not yet the case because of the situation in that school. We're coming back to the Minister of Secondary Education, Nalo Valyonga. Take a listen.
Why open days for technical education? Now remember that the technical education is the area that has more opportunities for job creation than general education. I hope that all parents listening to us can understand why we are emphasizing on technical education. Now, if you go to our cities today, you're going to find a lot of dirt, a lot of things that are not going well. You're going to find a lot of scrap iron, but we are also wanting that they should pass in their exams. Remember, I need to caution the principals, because we notice that you are still taking children the children. We have to be sure that they don't register as internal students because it will distort the results. I am so happy to be here. I'm happy to be here because in fact you are brothers and sisters. We have shared the same border. We have experienced similar problems.
Cameroon's Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Nalova Lyonga, speaking there. And now we're going to continue to talk about the issues in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. There's been a commotion in the southwest regional chief town, Boya, where some young persons took to the street, notably to call for peace, return to normalcy in the two Anglophone regions of the country, but they were intercepted by elements of the Boya Council, led by the mayor of that municipality, Ekema Patrick Sunge, and the leader of that movement that started after a conference on peace authorized by the divisional officer of Boya has been arrested, and until now her whereabouts remains unknown. She is a journalist and a pastor, and she has been arrested. She's a pastor of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, and her whereabouts remains unknown till now. There has been commotion in the southwest regional chief town as a result of this situation. Now we're going to continue with something else to talk about the situation of roads in the city of Douala, and this the problem of bad roads remains a nightmare to commuters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Several roads in the town of Douala are in an advanced state of dilapidation, and the government delegate to the Douala City Council, Dr. Fritz Tone, has reassured the population that he is doing everything possible to ensure that the roads are rehabilitated in the nearest future.
When the first rains fell in Douala, Cameroon's economic capital, the Nyala Chateau d'Eau, Japomahai neighborhoods were immersed in water. It was a veritable nightmare for the road users and those who live in this area. For some days now, this stretch of road is presenting a different picture due to the resumption of work that was put to a halt since 2014 at an execution rate of 60%. But as it stands, the military engineering department in charge of road works is taking everything from the start. The head of the military engineering department, Colonel Malal Kami, explains.
C'est vrai que nous devons encore finaliser quelques travaux d'assainissement.
It is true that we are supposed to finish some work, particularly with the gutters. We abandoned the Japoma stretch at an execution rate of 60%, but it wasn't our fault.
Quand nous étions rendus à 60%, taux d'exécution de 60%. Malheureusement, l'arrêt est assez prolongé pour des raisons qui n'étaient pas due à notre volonté.
On the opposite side of the Nyala Chateau, Nyala Rai, moving up to Ndokoti, road users and inhabitants of this area will have to be patient again. This construction site that falls under the emergency plan of the Douala City Council has since been on hold because of the lack of payment to the contractors. According to Dr. Frix Ntone, the Douala City Council boss, we are going to work in collaboration with the engineering unit of the military to help get a temporary solution. Amongst all of the projects launched in 2014, just the roads moving up to the north end of Douala is almost done, even though some final touches are to be done. With the hope that most of the projects will be completed, the government delegate of the Douala City Council says that will help to reduce traffic congestion in town. Another construction site that gives sleepless nights to its inhabitants is that at Peka 14 with a valley that is life-threatening, which has caused many of its inhabitants to flee away from the area. As Dr. Frix Ntonentone visited the different construction sites, the government delegate of the Douala City Council is also planning to wage a war against the haphazard construction of houses in the city of Douala.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Coming up next, Talking Point. Thanks for joining us in Talking Point. We are receiving a civil society actor, a Muslim scholar of the Christian Bible, Abdul Karim Ali. You're welcome.
Thanks for having me, Babylon.
You were arrested and detained recently. Can we share your story?
Let me begin by praising God, and I ask Him to send His blessings upon His prophet and righteous people and to all the televiewers this evening. Would you call it arrest? Let's say abducted. I didn't see a warrant of arrest, neither was there a warrant of what they call the search. However, to be fair and honest to the officers who took me, they were respectful, no molestation whatsoever. So I till today, I don't know why I was arrested. They didn't tell me, they didn't take a statement, and so on. But there were speculations that probably because of the outings I make based on invitations like yours and so on, and that I use the word Southern Cameroons. And so just to make it brief, if that is it, then I'm unapologetic and unequivocal on this matter. I have the total and complete right to say Southern Cameroon. Why don't I have the right to say Southern Cameroon if someone else has the right to say La République du Cameroon? La République du Cameroon and Southern Cameroons made up Federal Republic of Cameroon in 1961.
It should be noted that anyway, right now we are talking about former Southern Cameroons and former La République. But they are in our history books, of course.
No, there's no former La République. From Federal Republic of Cameroon to United Republic of Cameroon under dubious methods in 1972, and then comes again in 1984 La République du Cameroon. So what moral right does anyone have to tell me not to call it Southern Cameroon? I don't see the debate coming forth, and I challenge anyone to tell me why I should not call it Southern Cameroon if he has the right to call it La République du Cameroon.
Where were you detained and in what conditions?
Well, after Juma prayer, that's Friday prayer, I decided to stay back at Old Town to commune with other scholars and, of course, Muslim family. Then after the 3:30 prayer, on my way back home, they intercepted me. Well, like I said politely, I have to be fair on this, and then took me to their station where there was no interrogation. And I had a conversation with some inspectors, by the way, not an interrogation. They asked me a lot of things which I'm sure they were schooled. They didn't know the history of this country, and I'm sure they were taught on that day, and I hope the learning continues.
All right. You were arrested within a particular context, notably linked to the Anglophone crisis, and as you indicated earlier, your arrest had to do with your comments, your statements with regards to the deepening situation in the northwest and in the southwest regions of the country. And we have the most recent outings coming from the U.S., the United States, and the Bishop of the Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province talking about decrying the deepening situation in the regions. But the government has continued saying that the situation is under control. You are from the northwest region, you're on the ground. What's the situation?
Did you say the government said it's under control?
It's under control.
That is a lie. Nothing is under control. Come on, Babila. Just today I got feet. Many are dying in Menchum and elsewhere. Come on, we cannot sleep in Bamenda, or I'm sure also in Boya, without hearing the sound of guns. People are missing every day. People are getting arrested every day. People are getting locked up for things they don't know. You just read on the news that a peace journalist marching for peace was arrested under the instructions of Ekema. How can anybody claim that anything is under control? Nothing is under control. That's a lie.
Nothing is under control. The situation has continued moving from bad to worse, and now there is a peace initiative led by some members of parliament, and they have created what is today known as the Northwest and Southwest Peace Commission. What's your take on that initiative of peace?
You know, I think that the only thing worse than a liar is a liar who is a hypocrite. These are hypocrites. Honorable Weber came out in 2016 and called the entire country in a house called the House of Assembly to pay attention to burning things that are happening in the southern Cameroons. all of these guys, these so-called people who are forming a peace conference today, did not even back him for a minute. They didn't even congratulate him. None of them. Why? Because they have their interest. You know, the politicians have gone too corrupt and too bad that the 2% are even doubted. Well, what they should know is that there is nothing called peace without justice. And if they understand that concept, if they have any decree or an iota of decency left in them, they should know that the only committee which is desired or could be desired to be created, if at all, is a justice committee. And if you create such a committee as justice committee, the message is not going to go anywhere. You have to take it to Yaoundé. The message of justice should be taken to Yaoundé. That is where it should be preached. That is where it should start, and that is where it should end. These are hypocrites, and the only information I have for them that I can tell them is that they should know that the more they keep doing all this, the more we dig history. And the more we dig history, the darker history gets for the oppressor.
But we are talking about peace, and everybody wants a return to normalcy. And according to a member of that commission, the main objective is to bring about a ceasefire, is to get to a ceasefire, everybody dropping down their guns, both parties, so that peace talks can begin.
All right, if they have such power, they should tell the person who declared war to stop the war. That is where they should start to begin with. And then secondly, these guys have no interest of the layman like you and I or anyone else, Mr. Babila. This is the honest truth. What they want in disguise is normalcy for their day-to-day activity that they used to have over the poor masses. They don't really mean peace. They mean let things come back normal. For who? For us. You see, most of them can't even go back to their villages. And I challenge them, please, they should take the peace commission to their villages and start there. They have created, through this hypocrisy, a very difficult period for all of us. You know, the freedom of speech goes to the strong. But when the weak, like you and me, speak, it is hate speech. Terrorism is the violence of the weak, like war is the violence of the strong. This is what they're using. But I say, look, they are not dealing with 18th century or 19th century or even 20th century people. This is a 21st century people. They have to be careful and they should be just. And I see a lot of articles they write and include words from the Bible. These are people who have not read a complete book in the Bible. I challenge them to any debate on that subject. They don't know what they're doing, and they should quit using God's name to bring such a falsehood. But the Quran says in chapter 17, verse number 81, Jahak wazak al-batil, innal batila kana zahuka. Truth has come and falsehood will perish. For by its nature, falsehood is bound to perish.
Earlier you were talking about a justice commission. Is that the way out of the crisis?
This is the only way out. There must be justice. And to go to justice, you need to go to the root cause. I'm not talking about the cause of the outbreak of what they call Anglophone problem in 2016. I'm talking about the root cause of this whole issue, which dates back far back as maybe 1959, 1960, 1961, 72, 84. You have to go back there, address these issues, without which is a child's play. Mr. Babilo, we are not talking about some strike, some protest. We're talking about 5,000 people dead, more than 50,000 in the refugee camps, more than 500,000 displaced internally, thousands in exile. This is what we are dealing with. We're not dealing with a protest on the street. We're not dealing with salary protests. We're dealing with life and a statehood.
All right. Besides the Anglophone crisis, another issue, maybe it's not reached the level of a crisis, but it's a major problem that is eating deep into the marrows of the country and even destroying the economy of the country. I'm talking about corruption, and there is a full government now in prison with the recent case of former Minister Mbengo, who is in jail now in detention with his wife after the embezzlement of over 196 billion francs CFA. When you look at these figures and these guys who have been arrested and detained, what do you think about the state of corruption in Cameroon today?
Yeah, you know, I'll draw a line between corruption and embezzlement. When you look at corruption, you see it. This is France. That is what you get from romancing with France. When you romance with France, you get a corrupt system. This is a system that arrests people arbitrarily, take people from Nigeria here. You can see the corruption. That is corruption, misuse of power. You can see it playing. And then, of course, embezzlement, which is stealing state property. This, to me, is a non-event. The only thing that catches my attention to it is because I know that more than 60%, some sources say 63, 64, therefore I say more than 60% of the GDP of this country come from the southern Cameroon. So I can imagine already, by and large, a lot of this money comes from. How does somebody get to steal 100 billion, Mr. Babila? It's not today. And tell me which government in the world has ministers in the prisons and every day yet corruption continues. Why? Because the system is bad. If your methodology is wrong, your result is going to be wrong. But it is their business. They should deal with it. They should really deal with it. We are dealing with people that are dying. We are not dealing with thieves. That is stealing. The right word for it is stealing, not embezzlement.
All right, before we go, we recently wrote an open letter to the Minister of Territorial Administration on the wrong usage of the Quran.
Well, what message for him? He doesn't have the right, the moral standing to go close to a Quran. I wrote to him politely. We are expecting him to apologize. He should apologize for using a weak, ignorant few to blaspheme. And if he does not, the Creator would humiliate him himself. And for the ignorant Muslims, these are the main problems of Islam. The ignorant Muslims who in the first place will put themselves in that position, may God forgive them and forgive all of us.
Thanks, Abdul Karim Ali, Muslim scholar of the Christian Bible. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Babila.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.